Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah. Uh, Noting the fact that this coming weekend, we will have a Torah obligation of hearing the Torah. What do I mean by that? Generally the case is that we listen to Torah reading. It's somehow from Moshe Rabbeinu, a tradition from him, and it's from Ezra that we should be reading the Torah on a regular basis. But there's one time that we have a Torah obligation to do so, and that's the mitzvah of Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, to remember that which Amalek did to you. And our rabbinic understanding of that phrase, often the mitzvah of Zechira, which you think remembering happens in your head, is often interpreted rabbinically to mean that you actually have to recall it in a verbal way. And so, for example, Kiddush, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'Kadsho, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. We take as a mitzvah to recite Kiddush over a cup of wine, right? The Kiddush, Zachor l'Kadsho, that's part of remembering the Sabbath day. And so remembering what Amalek did to you, we understand to mean to read it, and to read it from the Torah. That's the primary understanding. So there's a mitzvah min ha-Torah to read this section of the Torah. What can one do? I have to clarify. There's a mitzvah in the Torah to read about what Amalek did to us. So what do you do in a situation where someone cannot be in shul or outside at Minyan on Shabbos Zachor this weekend? So firstly, do your best to come. You can be outdoors. You can sign up just for the second reading, which we're going to have at 10:45 at the medical pavilion next to the shul building. But otherwise, what do you do? Well, you can have in mind a few things. You can choose, because we understand this mitzvah. Go back one step. This is Sefer Chinuch that says that the mitzvah to remember Amalek in this way once a year. So we got it. The Chachamim have pinned this to the Shabbos before Purim. But if one could not do it on the Shabbos before Purim, what are the other options? Well, since it's taken from the end of Ki Teitzei, in the summertime, when we read Ki Teitzei, you can plan on being at Minyan then, to hear it and fulfill your obligation then. There are some opinions which hold that, like Magen Avram, for example, that if you hear the Torah reading of Vayavo Amalek, which is the description of the events themselves in Parshat B'Shalach, which we read on Purim morning, so you might fulfill your obligation that way. So if you will be at Minyan Purim morning, you can do that, or you're listening via Zoom to the Minyan, not to the special times we just had Megillah reading, but the Minyan Zoom, you could perhaps fulfill your obligation that way. What we're going to try to do is also, it's still in the plans, but we're hoping that on Purim evening, but after Mincha, before Marav, we'll also do a reading of Parshat Zachor on Zoom, and you can fulfill that obligation seemingly by Shomei Ka'ona if you can't be present in person, which again is always the preference, but we understand the complications of this pandemic year. May God enable us to fulfill this mitzvah, and to remember Amalek, and help ensure that this mitzvah, as so many others, are in our hearts and on our minds. Have a great day.